to get to as well. But we do have an in-studio guest who we're going to spend some time with this morning. Wow, what an impressive resume.
Just a bit, yeah.
We were just off air talking about the Navy and so forth. And a 3-star admiral, by the way, is what he achieved the rank of. And now is a 7th District Congressman in Pennsylvania. Please welcome Mr. Joe Sestak this morning.
Glad to be aboard. Thanks.
Thanks for coming in this morning. I'm gonna be up front and tell you that I am a political idiot. So don't look for the hard-hitting questions to come from me.
Look, I'm just a sailor. I happen to get into politics, but I'm just a sailor.
Do you encounter that a lot? Because when I was talking with Preston before the interview and leading up to that, and I think just because of the sometimes vicious nature of the political system, that a lot of people just tune out. And I know a lot of people, such as Preston, who do that. I'm into politics to a great extent, but it just, I sort of long for the days of yore when it seemed that at the end of the day, everyone would shake hands and we have differing opinions.
Yeah, I used to say in the military, war is politics by other means, but I found out politics is war by other means.
Yeah.
You go down, it's the Hatfields and the McCoys down there. There's a great book, Power and the Ambition, the fall of Jim Wright, who was Speaker of the House. 1986, Newt Gingrich took him down because of some smoke brown. Ever since then, I've talked to legislators still there. They said it used to be different. You could have a beer with someone afterwards, hard fights, but at the end of the day, you could work something out on a principled compromise. It's changed, and both parties have done a disservice to this nation by it.
And I see it. I'm Republican. I see it on my side as well. I see it on both sides, and it brings it down. I've seen you though in a number of incidences where you seemed, and I appreciated, a more moderate approach to these things, and it's just disheartening. What are you actively trying to do to reverse that? Is it something that can be reversed at this point?
It has to be reversed. Look, it's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
Look, my district's 55% Republican when I ran, 33% Democrat. I needed their support.
Right.
I can reach across the aisle and talk with others, but what they most like is not that they disagree or agree with me. They say, I won't betray the trust.
Right.
That's all right. The second time we actually ran, we didn't spend a cent, I'm sorry, guys, on a radio or a TV ad. Didn't. We put out yard signs.
Right.
And that's what has to change. Just somebody where people believe, hey, he's willing to lose his job just to try to work it. Look, that's what's missing. Tell me who the titan is right now in either the House of Representatives or the Senate, who's actually able to say, like Sam Nunn used to do, or Jackson used to do, let me reach across the aisle and see what we can affect here.
You're not seeing a lot of that.
No, sir, we don't. And I think, I think this anger that you see across this great state of ours, as well as this nation, is representative that, you know what, Washington, it's not just that you can't do anything right. Is that you're a little bit more interested in the deal at the end, as my own as that senator was, Ben Nelson was, rather than doing what's good for us.
And as we're seeing it also with the health care deals that are being made, and people just bristling, just unbelievably upset that these deals and deals have been made. It's part of politics, but I feel it. I think you're right. It's just pissing people off in a way I haven't seen in a long time.
Without a question, look, you could be a captain of a ship in the Navy. And people, you could be hard, mean, anything you want to, but if they trusted you, you could do anything with that crew.
Right.
And we didn't always agree, but you came together. And look, I'm telling you that sometimes, unfortunately, it's gone too far. And to where not just Ms. Pelosi, but her predecessor, instead of being Speaker of the House as a whole, it becomes Speaker of the Democratic Caucus or the Republican Convention. I got to tell you, I would just, if I was Speaker, I'd reach across and I'd sit with the Republican side once a day, once a week.
Right,
just like, what is it? Let me listen, let me hear, and try to affect something. Because what is most obstructing progress down there isn't, as like some of the Democrats say, just the Republicans. It's this loss of faith that we would stand and do something right together. That's what's the most damage to this nation right now.
Well, I think the loss of faith really reaches across all spectrums. So I have a friend who's an Iraqi war vet, and he likes to say that he buried his politics in the desert. And when he came back from there, he just really gave up on both sides. He was really disillusioned, is still disillusioned. And as a military man yourself, why have you chosen to embrace politics rather than leave that part of your life behind?
Well, I've had two personal challenges in life. The first was getting a woman to marry me. It took me to 47 years old to do that. Then I had a 4-year-old, and she was struck with the same brain tumor that Ed Kennedy had. Given 3 to 9 months to live. I lived in Walter Reed and then Children's Hospital, and this nation gave me a chance to give her a life. 18% of the kids survive her type of tumor. I came back home where I was born and raised to run for Congress to pay back a debt I had. I was inspired that everybody should have the same opportunity I had in healthcare. So I ran on national security beginning at home, health security. And I went to 2 subcommittees that were in healthcare, education security. I'm on the education committee, and economic security.
Right.
And that's it. That's why I ran. I owed people back.
Let me ask you, there was an article in Philadelphia Magazine about you, and it was very insightful. I assume you read the piece, correct?
I skimmed it, actually. I tried not to read too much on me.
And it points out that within your own party, you're not the favored person. Ed Rendell, is against your running, and President Obama himself, they're of course, they're with Arlen Specter. It makes a point that you've sort of made a history out of fighting the odds and rising to it. The Arlen Specter thing, as from my political point of view, he's flip flopped and he's unreliable at least at this point. What is your take on his opportunistic, by my reckoning, change of heart and what he's going to do and what he won't do correctly for the Democratic Party?
It's representative of what most upsets people.
Yeah.
That the political calculation of the establishment and their politics becomes more important than the working family. I don't say that lightly. I respect the establishment, but frankly, I disagree. Sit back and look at Pennsylvania's working families. We've had an increase of 30% in jobs the last 30 years. The rest of the nation did 60%. I look around this wonderful radio station here and look at the young men and women. But you know what? We've only had an increase of population about 4.6% in 30 years, and the rest of this nation has done about 35%. Why? The youth aren't staying because the job opportunities aren't here. And that's what most concerns me.
Right.
So all of a sudden, someone in the Navy, you run a ship aground, we relieve you for cause.
Yeah.
Arlen inspected 2,000 votes for George Bush, and all of a sudden we say, after he got us into this mess, come on over and show us how to get out of it. No. I
don't mean to jump in here, but does that there has to be a little bit of a sense of betrayal that you've been riding along, with the party and at least producing, and that they would be so categorically
not
shutting
betrayal,
you out.
Not betrayal of me at all.
Yeah.
It's betrayal of those in my district.
Right.
Here's someone, Arlen Specter, who actually voted against S-chip 3 times. To cover lower income children and pregnant women, lower income to take care of them. Mm-hmm. He voted to privatize Social Security. Luckily that failed. He voted, though, to cut Medicare by $286 billion. How could we ever say, if you believe in democratic principles, which I mean with a small d, in the sense that the engine of our economy is the working family, hold them accountable, which has always seemed to be a very good Republican trait, except I would argue the last 8 years as they tripled our debt,
right.
And then invest in them. And so all of a sudden you have an individual who voted to let Wall Street get...
MMR rocks. The Preston and Steve Show.
David Letterman was not the only one getting comedy tips from Johnny Carson. Johnny was also serving as a comedy coach for Al Gore.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I mean, as a Republican, and from my take on things, I disagree with a number of your positions. But what I do agree with is the sincerity, and I'm more inclined to give someone a shot that I believe. Okay, maybe I'll entertain this notion. And it's, and what you're talking about is reaching out to people whose political philosophies might be different than your own, and creating a bridge. And that's something you do not see a lot of these days.
This president tried to do that, but you know what? There weren't the titans, the leaders down there to try to affect it. Look, in the long term,
right?
If people trust you, then they're going to believe in you. When I joined up in the military during the Vietnam War, and I graduated from the best school I went to, Cardinal O'Hara. I got to tell you something. 1970, the military was ranked 15 out of 15 in terms of public trust. Right. Of all 15 institutions Gallup polled those. When I left 4 years ago, it was number 1 at 78% trust. I went to Congress. It's last in the fall. Think what we could do with Republicans, Independents, Democrats if they think just like that is, look, I don't agree all the way, but you're listening and you're trying to affect something.
Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot, because right now, somehow we placed working families into the savage recession through no fault of their own, and that's why they just don't trust people, particularly when someone switches the party just to keep their job.
I have to ask, with your experience and your broad experience in all sorts of world affairs, the situation in Haiti, where do you see where we are right now? What are your suggestions for handling it? Obviously,
if there's anything I learned in those 30-plus years in the U.S. Navy, and I went to St. Lucia's after the devastation, and Australia after some of the devastation, while we're respected for the power of our military and the power of our economy, we're admired for the power of our ideals. You have no idea what that impact is when that helicopter comes over and drops supplies. We should be doing this.
Right.
It's right offshore. If we had not lost our leadership of this world, we, in the sense of those years where I felt we went it alone too often, instead of leading people towards a common cause, I got to tell you, our number one issue is the security of America, but that means more peace and prosperity around the world. And going into places like I did in St. Lucia's or Haiti makes a difference. Indonesia, remember the tsunami?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Before that, the polls showed 12% of the Muslim population had a positive impression of America. Afterwards, it's 58%.
Wow.
Does this make a difference? Oh, yes, it does.
So just in the actual physical, visceral approach, what do you see? Because they have
Absolutely.
no infrastructure.
Here's
the
what's
government's
going-
wiped out.
Right-
Everything is
Right now, we've
devastated.
got about 4 or 5 U.S. naval ships up there. They're providing the logistics to fly things around because the roads are down. But we're flying in constructions and others that will start clearing those roads. We've got people, teams, civilians from Fairfax, Virginia to Los Angeles that are going in, went in immediately with dog sniffing to
cadaver
find the-
dogs, yeah.
Absolutely. But now what needs to be done is a follow-on construction for this. I mean, we do exercises with non-government agent organizations all the time in the U.S. military to plan for this. So in the non-government organizations, when you provide money and contribute, it goes to people who are set up to do this. Now, what has to do, though, we've got to bring all the nations together to help contribute to the reconstruction. Maybe this time we can do it well. And not just, as remember we went in before, there was we flying our military in, do you remember that?
Yep, mm-hmm.
Years ago, and all of a sudden then we backed away. Look, this is a place that I believe can become something, but not with us doing it all, where we bring other nations and have them buy in that, hey, this is a society that can be something. So we have spent $100 million.
They don't seem to be stepping up, though, at least right now, the way we are. And isn't that always the case, though?
The other nations?
Yeah.
It has been the case. Look, here's why, and I will make this argument. When we went in, let me give you an example, Bosnia, for that conflict, over 50% of the troops were non-U.S. When we went into the first Gulf War, over 50% were non-U.S. When we went into this Iraq venture, and I was, I was doing the carrier battle group ops off of Afghanistan, less than 8% were. We went it alone, and somehow that ability to lead and bring others with us went away. That is where you have a very good point about it, but you've got to step back. When we don't assume a leadership role in the world, even though it's frustrating at times that the UN and other places, nations tend not to follow our leadership. Why do we want them to? For our interest.
If you're just tuning in,
that's why we've had a problem.
This is Congressman Joe Sestak is here with us, and a couple of appearances today. In case you want to go on in person and hear what he has to say, you're going to be at Temple today at 1:00, and then 2:30 you'll be at the Job Corps of Philadelphia. And I do have to ask, while people are coming out and seeing you in person, what is the bracelet that you're wearing there?
Just before my daughter had her first brain operations at 4 years old, she made a bracelet for me, and then after she came out, we had a pathologist in the operating room that said 4 to 9 months. I've never taken it off.
Wow.
It's
yeah, it looks like something that a kid would make.
It's a little. It's cute. And thanks. It's the most precious thing I have outside my daughter, my wife.
That's cool.
I have a question. I don't want to get too bogged down in the politics of it, but I voted for you, and it seemed that a year and a half or so ago, with 60 votes in the Senate and a majority in the House, that the Democrats would really be able to get things done on the Democratic agenda. And that doesn't seem to have happened. And I don't understand why, if you have such an overriding majority, those things became so much more difficult than I would have imagined.
Here's what I would argue. The Democratic Party forgot something. They were not given a mandate. They were given an opportunity to do something. They as much voted against the other side of 8 years that gave us this savage recession or this national debt as to put us in there. And I honestly think people were in an echo chamber down there. They weren't coming back and listening. We still should have done, I think we were on the right path to do things. But when I went around the 67 counties of Pennsylvania in July to decide whether to get in or not, after I'd been told, sit down, don't do it, what I saw was people, Democrats, that were saying, what are you doing down there? And so those town halls occurred, and I would argue that the ability to come back and listen but explain what we're doing, and many people from safe seats, not seats like I have, where you have to sit with Republicans and explain. They don't always agree with me, and I'm staying with my principle. I haven't changed my policies at all. But the ability to come back and hold town halls and listen, not waiting till that August. We had 7 town halls before then on health care. We lost that. You're a representative first, a congressperson second to vote. And I would argue that they somehow just didn't listen. And I'm hitting my own party, but we were given the leadership of this nation, and we should not be pointing fingers at anyone else except ourselves.
I appreciate that, from my angle, and it is an interesting thing with that majority and with that supposed power. But it did occur to me as well that, wow, for all the supposed transparency and for all of this that we were supposed to be part of, it just hasn't happened.
Well, let's think about my own party. Here it is, Arlen Specter, 2,000 times voting with George Bush on policies that actually said 53 cents of every dollar would go to the top 1%. And then we say, come on over, it's okay. That type of deal making and forgetting, and I mean literally forgetting that, come on back, explain what's in it for the working family, where the working family here had lost $2,000 in real income prior to the recession in the previous 6 years. That means in 2007 they were earning $2,000 less in real income than 7 years earlier. All of a sudden they said, I'm in this recession? Explain to me this health care bill. And I don't think we were down there explaining to the people. People forget. It's for the people. When I was a Navy captain or an admiral, I had captain calls every week to sit with the sailors, much like I'm having kitchen calls now, and explain and listen and go back and forth of what's on your mind. Didn't mean they would agree with me always, but I listened.
Right. I voted for you as well, especially since you're an O'Hara alum. And I too don't want to get bogged down in the politics of everything, but it does seem like, as a politician, that's the only thing you really have time for. And, a few weeks ago, it was rumored that President Obama was going to give his State of the Union the same night as the Lost premiere. And I thought to myself, wow, doesn't he watch Lost? So, I mean, outside of politics, are there anything, do you have a TV show? Do you have an appointment TV that you like to watch? Or is it all politics with you?
A lot of it's about Happy Feet.
Yeah.
Taking my daughter. I mean, that is my life. Look, we keep our office open 7 days a week. We have yet to close it. It's headed, unfortunately, by a Bonner boy. Billy Walsh and I went off to the Navy together in 1970 and came out together. He keeps open 7 days a week. We've handled 4 times the caseload of the average congressional office because the symptoms of what have hurt this nation we see in my district. But I will tell you this. I almost didn't run because I wanted a little bit more time with my family, and it's hard to say over public, but I honestly felt I needed to because of this more, even though the working families are hurting, but more of the sense of nobody trusts public servants.
Oh, yeah.
And so I still, literally, any moment I don't, it's all with my daughter.
Okay.
And, whether it's Happy Feet or what anything.
Yeah. Dora the Explorer.
Now, you and Arlen Specter are going to be debating, have arranged to, yes?
Well, we have one debate. It's amazing, as we wanted one in each media market. So the one debatee who said, I'll only do one, it's going to be 1 minute replies, no opening statement. And we're supposed to go to the Progressive Summit, where I was supposed to debate here this coming 30 January. And in order to accommodate him, because he didn't want to be on the stage with me, they actually said, we'll change the rules and you'll be up on separate times, not with each other. It's an amazing, and this is what's about the establishment. You sit here, and if there's ever a time about transparency, accountability, now's the time. It's different. Look, every challenger wants more time with the incumbent.
Yeah.
But it's different out there. This nation is on a point in time where it has to decide who we're going to be. Philadelphia, less than 50% of the kids are graduating from high school. Why am I at Temple today? And why am I at Job Corps today? Because I'm going to lay out 8, 9 initiatives of how, on policy, heaven forbid we'll talk policy, small businesses with the right tax incentives can create jobs. Because Philadelphia's had an increase of small businesses in the last 30 years of 4%. The rest of the nation does 80%. Let's get going.
You know what's interesting, and I'll just say it on this on a basic level. And you know, facts get thrown out, numbers get thrown out. Everyone can spin the facts their way, and I sort of long for the day when someone sort of charismatically just says, you know, and a lot of people jumped on the Obama wagon, and hey, God bless, whatever, you know, differing points of view on that one, but somebody who just says, let's just get in a room and talk this out and do it the old style way. And now in debates, the answers are all talking points parroted over and over again. You see it all the time. It's just a very depressing state of affairs.
It is. I don't know if you know this. Pat Toomey, the presumptive Republican nominee, did you know we had a health care debate up in Allentown? I sent out a press response to him after he hit me up on the public option. I said, look, why don't I come to your hometown? We'll do a debate in front of everyone. And actually, the Inquirer and others covered it and said, it's the first time we've seen a debate where it wasn't. Hey, you know, we went out for a beer afterwards, by the way.
There you go.
Okay, we did.
Yeah.
But we had a debate of ideas of different philosophies. You're absolutely right. And think about it. All the time, the first question I always get asked when I sit at a tour booth, well, how's the polls? How's this? Wait a moment. How about it, you know, yeah, polls, I got it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to win. You got to have the process. But there is so many ideas out there that are helping or hurting us. What are you going to do? And then tell me afterwards how you're going to bring it about.
Yeah.
I have to point this out because we got an instant message up, and this is just give you some perspective to the audience that you're speaking to now, Congressman. It says, this is the most refreshing political interview I've ever heard. Thank you. But the screen name is Kathy's Knockers.
There you go.
So
Please don't ask me to comment on that.
there's your constituency.
Right there.
It's kind of a win-win.
Well, but that's if I would pass anything along, it'd be and you. I'm sure you're getting it from what you're saying. You're getting it is that people yearn for that square. Tell me the deal.
Yeah.
Let's just get to it. Stop spinning. Stop the crap. And I just think the country's coming to a boiling point on this.
It is. Look, maybe I'm a little more fortunate though, and I have to say it. I joined up in the Navy because my father had been a World War II vet, was in the Navy. I decided in third grade, so I had done everything I wanted to in life once I commanded a ship in 1986.
Right.
The rest of my life's been gravy. You know, I had to convince, as I said, someone to marry me and, you know, and all that. Yeah. But those were personal challenges. So I really do mean this. The gravest harm to our nation is not this economy, not the healthcare crisis. It's the complete lack of trust in the public servants, which means the institutions upon which our nation is founded, the institutions I defended. And heaven forbid that we can't come together. It doesn't mean you don't have harsh debates.
Yeah.
I'm going to when I fight Pat Toomey to win the Senate race in the general. But it means you can come together and discuss it, and at least you feel you had your day as a representative, as a citizen to tell somebody something.
Yeah, and then you get stuff done instead of the stalemate.
Yeah.
And you know we have to. Look, it's about China. It's about India. How do we compete? How do we get the kids with the right college and 2-year college education schedule school? Because I got to tell you, China did this year at 8.5% GDP, and we grew at about 2%. If we want to compete with our children, we've got to change things. And
we've got to start censoring Google. That's the best way to do it.
Well, you'll be able to see and have a little more in-depth conversation later on today at Temple University at 1:00, and then at Job Corps Philadelphia. By the way, is there a location where people can find out where you're going to be on the web? Is there
yes,
an official website?
Yes, if you just go on my web, and it is joe@joesestak.com, SESTAK, or call 610-891-8956.
And by the way, how often do you get Sestak by accident? Does that happen on occasion?
On occasion.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you coming by this morning, and
thanks.
We'll gladly send those who are interested to come by and hear what you have to say.
My best to you, and you know, this show is an institution, 40 plus years, and so thanks for what you do.
Well, you got my vote.
A great compact. No, seriously, great compact with the city.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, District Congressman in the PA 7th District, Joe Sestak, on our show. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back in a moment.